This is a Fox News alert. Alaska's governor says no. No to the new health care law. He's not even leaving his state to do it. No trip to Washington, no courtrooms, just saying no. Governor Sean Parnell is simply refusing to implement the federal health care law in Alaska. Now, as you may remember, Alaska was one of the 26 states in the Florida lawsuit where a federal judge deemed the law unconstitutional. Alaska Governor Sean Parnell joins us on the phone. Good evening, sir.
Good evening, Gretta. It's good to be with you.
Nice to have you. So why have you decided to just not, is it simply the decision in the federal case down in Florida, so now you're not going to move forward?
Well, it is. Alaska joined 25 other states and asked that the individual mandate be declared unconstitutional. We sought a preliminary injunction barring implementation of federal health care law. The judge gave us, along with the other states, what we asked for. In my view, Alaska is bound by the decision. I mean, that's a long-standing notion of judicial review, that's the federal court's role. They have said this is unconstitutional. We're not going to go forward and implement it at this point unless there's a stay or the Supreme Court overturns this.
Well, you may sort of make an interesting comment because earlier today the federal government in Florida filed a motion to clarify as to whether or not the law does bind anybody. And it's sort of interesting, the government did not file a motion to stay because they did not want to admit that the decision was in any way binding. Of course, the federal government has not asked the Supreme Court to rule on this quickly, so that you, Governor, are not in a bind or anybody else in either direction, whether it's constitutional or not. Governor, how does it impact Alaska if you were to go forward with this?
Well, at this point, I have been making case-by-case decisions on each deadline as they've approached. Now, this particular deadline that approached on February 18 was whether we should take federal money to implement the health insurance exchanges. And we are evaluating the health insurance exchange aspect with state money. We're not going to get further entangled with federal money. So, frankly, we would have just been digging a deeper hole had we taken federal money and continue to take federal money on these decisions. And that's something that I'm not going to do at this point, given the unconstitutional, the decision that the implementation would be unconstitutional.
Do you know of other governors? There are 26 states that are now in the lawsuit, maybe 28, and I've lost count in Florida. Do you know if other governors are likewise going to take the position you are, that it's unconstitutional, that's the situation, that it binds everybody, and that you move forward assuming that the law does not exist? Well,
at this standpoint, I am speaking only for Alaska, of course, and the other governors have the same decision to make that I have made, and that is that we have taken some federal money as deadlines have accrued while the law was still in dispute. Now that the law is no longer can no longer be followed, this judge effectively said that his declaratory judgment is the functional equivalent of an injunction. So I don't think there's a question, at least not in my mind, but that's a question for other governors at this point.
I think what he also said, and I'll even give a page reference because I read it so many times, page 75 of his decision, he said not only is a functional equivalent, but he said he presumed that the federal government would follow the law, and that the fact that it's declared unconstitutional, that he did not, at least the way I read it, he did not expect that the federal government would seek to enforce it against you or any other state.
No, which to me means that as long as this, if the federal government chooses to appeal the ruling, I think all these deadlines are told. I think that they will be held in abeyance, and my view is that I'd like to see the other governors join me, and we'll sort out the money that we have taken. We'll sort out what that means in the future once this is all unraveled by the Supreme Court.
That's why it's imperative that we have a quick review in the Supreme Court, and it's imperative that the federal government, that the Obama administration not stand in the way of a quick decision by the Supreme Court, so we know one way or the other. Governor, thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Greta. Good night.